day 4. We're in Mudgee, so we're heading to the Snowies slowly. So today we're heading to, where we're heading to? Braidwood. We're heading to Braidwood. So we've got some pretty rugged mountain riding to do. Some of it's single lane. I think we've got about it's about 5.5 hours in the saddle all up today. So it's going to be a pretty long ride. We've got one guy, one of the other mates is going to be along with us, so Mick. We'll pick him up very shortly. We're going to go and wash our bikes because I'll show you why in a minute. Filthy. And yeah, they're just filthy. And yeah, sorry about that. Well folks, we've just arrived in Hill End. It's a historic gold mining town. So in the early 1870s there was really rich gold discoveries. It turned Hill End rapidly from a small rural and mining community into one of the largest inland towns in New South Wales. There's not a lot here now, just beautiful historic buildings, but today pretty much it's just a quieter village with intact gold rush streetscapes and buildings dating back to the 1860s. They provide a snapshot of what life was like in the early gold mining boom days of the 19th century in New South Wales. So Hill End was the site where they dug the biggest or the largest gold mining nugget in the world. So from memory, I think it was about 4 foot high when standing end on end. These days, yeah, it's just a tourist attraction. Beautiful little town though, freezing cold in winter. But I'm just going to take you for a walk around, show you some of these beautiful historic buildings, and it's just reminiscent of the old Wild West in the US. So enjoy.
What is now Hill End was originally part of the Tambaroora area. In the 1850s, the Hill End area was also known as Bald Hills, and Tambaroora town was a few miles to the north. In 1860, a village was proclaimed, first as Forbes, and then in 1862 it was renamed Hill End. Tambaroora had been the largest centre. In 1865, it had 7 pubs to Hill End's 2. Following the discovery of rich gold reefs at Hawker's Hill, part of Hill End, in the early 1870s, Hill End overtook Tambaroora as the main town in the area, and at its peak in the early 1870s, it had a population estimated at 8,000, served by 2 newspapers, 5 banks, 8 churches, and 28 pubs. The town's decline, when the gold eventually gave out, was dramatic. By 1945, the population was 700, with today's population around 80, plus kangaroos. These days, Hill End is classified as a historical site by the national parks. However, a handful of residents are still operating the local pub, general store, cake store, and antique store. National Parks runs a museum just off the main road which contains many original photos and items of equipment from the busy days of the gold rush. A more extensive museum, the privately owned History Hill, is located a few kilometres from the town on the Bathurst Road. History Hill portrays the reality of a gold rush with tools and conditions as real as you can get from the 1800s. History Hill holds for public viewing over 10,000 gold rush artefacts, steam engines, stamper batteries, items of colonial history and also convict history. For the adventurous, there are 175 metres of underground mine tunnels to explore, electrically lit and frequently inspected. National Parks has installed signs around the town to give visitors an idea of what was once in place on the now empty lots of land. Currently, only a handful of buildings remain in their original form. However, most of these buildings still serve the purpose they did back during the gold rush days. There is still one gold mine in operation at Hill End by Vertex Minerals, with a processing plant and a mineral resource of 485,000 ounces of gold. The Abercrombie River is a perennial river that is part of the huge Murray-Darling Basin. The river flows through freehold land as well as the Abercrombie River National Park and provides habitat for platypus, an Australian duck-billed water mammal that lays eggs, and the rakali, also known as the Australian otter or water rat. The river drops 2,500 feet over its course of 81 miles. Alluvial gold was first discovered in and along the river in 1851, inspiring a minor gold rush hampered by the ruggedness of the terrain and the periodic depths of the waterway. Early miners recovered up to 3 ounces of gold a day along the river, and by 1862, between 40 and 50 mining parties were at work at Milburn Creek, a minor tributary of the Abercrombie. Gold was discovered at Chewina in 1851. The popular folk tale is that a Reverend Douglas, travelling to Chewina for a christening, stopped to boil his billy at Limestone Creek and found a gold nugget under a stone. Hearing of the find, miners rushed to the area. Within a few years, Chewina had a population of more than 10,000. In 1865, the outlaw Ben Hall and his gang bailed up and in near Chewina. But by 1869, the gold was gone and the population had dropped to less than 100. Today, the tiny town has a few historic buildings and memories of a brief, dramatic past. Crookwell is a quiet rural town with a population of around 2,000 people and is surrounded by a rich agricultural and pastoral district. It's located on the Crookwell River and at an elevation of 3,000 feet can be hot and dry in summer and cold in winter with several snowfalls. The district is recognised as one of the state's major producers of seed potatoes, wool, fat lambs, beef cattle, oats, hay, dairy produce and cold climate fruits. There are also horse studs, alpaca farms and olive groves in the area. Tourism is now the third most important industry in the district. The area around Crookwell was first settled in the 1820s and had received its current name by the 1860s. A number of bushrangers were active in the area from the 1830s to the 1860s, notably Ben Hall's gang. The Royal Hotel and Millhouse Inn were both built in 1862, and the Criterion Hotel, where we were to have lunch, first opened its doors in 1874. By 1878, there were 2 hotels, a bank, a tannery, a cordial factory, a flour mill, saddlery, blacksmiths, butcher and 5 stores. That year saw the completion of the courthouse and also the police station. The railway arrived in 1901 and by 1926 it only took 90 minutes to reach the major regional centre of Goulburn by rail. So we're currently in Crookwell, about 40 minutes I think out of Goulburn. Today we've ridden from Mudgee through Hill End through Turondale to Bathurst and then down through Chewina, and we're currently at Crookwell. So did some awesome roads and my old mate T is going to tell you about them.
Mate, the roads from Bathurst to here, the twisties, that's what makes touring fun. Just on the throttle, good scenery, great countryside, good company. It's fantastic.
With a population of 25,000, Goulburn's a historic regional city in the southern tablelands of New South Wales. It's approximately 121 miles southwest of Sydney. An ex-convict, John Wilson, was the first European to see Goulburn Plains when he led an expedition into the area in 1798. The plan, devised by Governor Hunter, was to explore the area and provide a very negative report. At the time, convicts were escaping and heading south in the mistaken belief that China was only 150 miles away. In 1836, a stockade was built to house convicts involved in the construction of the Great South Road. The stockade was the main penal establishment southwest of Sydney. At its peak, it held over 250 convicts, often with 10 men to a cell. At this time, a gallows and flogging post was constructed to keep rowdy convicts in line. In 1884, the jail at North Goulburn was completed. It's now a maximum security prison, housing infamous criminals.
So we made it to Braidwood. We're all staying at that pub behind me across the road there. So pretty historic town. So Braidwood was first settled in the 1820s. A lot of these buildings here have been, particularly the stone ones, been built by convicts and that. There's a lot of those buildings still standing. I'm standing right in front of one here actually. So this is on the headwaters of the Shoalhaven River that goes all the way down the mountains and out to sea at Shoalhaven Heads near Nowra. Look, we're going to have a few beers this afternoon. I'll take you on a nice little tour of the town tomorrow that we finally made it. Big day of riding. It was about 6 hours all up of riding, and we did about 350 miles I think. So anyway, enjoy this town.
Built in 1890, the Royal Mail Hotel, formerly the Royal Hotel, served as a staging point for coaches in the gold rush and early settlement. Since that time, the building's been well maintained in keeping with its heritage. The name change was made in 1970 when the Mick Jagger film Ned Kelly utilised the pub for a variety of scenes. The pub is run by Jamie and his daughter Bonnie and granddaughter Gracie. They're working hard on renovating and restyling the hotel to bring it back to its original glory. They've renovated the accommodation rooms and are tackling the shared bathrooms in the accommodation space and renovating the bar area. The beer garden's well underway with renovations, and by summer, It'll be transformed into a beautiful space for families to enjoy. Trampus and I settled into the bar for a few beers after arriving mid-afternoon. The beer was cold, the music loud, and the bar staff kept us entertained with stories of the history behind the pub. We also met owner Jamie, who had a role in the Mick Jagger film, Ned Kelly. I explored the pub, deliberating over the historical displays and the quality of the renovation by owner Jamie and his staff. It was about this time that our three mates and fellow travellers, Glenn, Tags and Tezza, arrived. And so, the beer started flowing more freely before the staff brought out meals that included delicious lamb cutlets. It was to be a long night with great mates. This is me mate Tags here. What have we got going on here tonight, mate?
We're having lamb cutlets.
Woohoo! Obviously local, mate.
Good for my diet.
And Tags, tell how I can reach over the bar.
Join the Silver Gypsies on our next episode as we travel with great mates from Braidwood down to the coast and then up Brown Mountain before arriving in the southern tablelands town of Bombala.